Celebrating 49 years on the air, award-winning Farmweek is a production of Mississippi State University Extension.
Today on Farm Week, revisiting our series, The Hungriest State. In this episode, the fisherfolk can't seem to make a living. In Southern Gardening with these big color and little packages. In the markets, just what is the crop situation in Mississippi? Boots on the ground with Will Mabel. Then back on our series in Mississippi waters, almost a zero harvest. Farm Week starts right now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Zach Ashmore.
And I'm Mike Russell. Great to have you with us again here on Farm Week. This week, we continue our Emmy-winning series, The Hungriest State, with two more segments examining the lives of those who make their living on the water, fisherfolk. In the first segment, we meet Frank Parker and Maria Tran, for whom making ends meet on Mississippi's Gulf Coast is now easier said than done.
My name's Frank Parker, and I'm a sixth-generation commercial fisherman from Biloxi, Mississippi. I absolutely knew I was going to be a fisherman forever. I mean, I can remember as a young child, that's all I ever wanted to do was fish, you know, whether it was crabs or fish or shrimp. I was going to be on that water. I've known that my whole life. I started commercial fishing by myself when I was 13 years old, running crab traps before and after school. So, I mean, I've been running these waters for 38 years now, you know? So, to me, it's kind of, you know, I know this water like the back of my hand.
count. So this is 30 and 10, 30 and 10 is 40. Oh, look at this one. My name is Maria Tran. I'm a mom of 8. 8. I have 8 kids. Yeah, it's 4 boys and 4 girls. And shrimping, shrimping was not my plan. And 30. Here you go. Thank you. Be 40.
Yes, ma'am.
Enjoy your crab, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
You take care now.
Thank you. What was the plan?
My plan was to get a good education and be a doctor like every normal kid. Because when I came over in 1975, I was only 4 years old. Most of the people that built the shrimping business that came over from Vietnam had no means of, English, the language barrier, education. So the only thing that make a living out is shrimping. And shrimping is, for them, they pick up really fast. Yeah, they love the hard work because you make money and they could support their family. There's 2 types of shrimper. One that goes out for a month, that stays out a month. And those are the people that can make the money. Because they stay out there for a whole month, they collect, they hit and collect and accumulate the shrimp, and they come in and they sell to the factory. With us, it's local, we like to sell all fresh. And we only could go about like at nighttime. Right? We leave the dock at 5 and comes in at 7:30. So this, you don't have enough time. So we catch as much as we can and supply our customer, the local, with fresh shrimp. And with all this rain, it's making it very hard.
Making it very hard indeed. We'll have more in just a few minutes.
What's the old saying? Good things often come in small packages. This week in our Southern Gardening segment, we refer to them as little giants. Dwarf butterfly bushes produce big-time color for such little plants. Here's Eddie Smith.
Today, Southern Gardening is at the home of Patricia Holliday, admiring her beautiful butterfly bushes. Patricia is a master gardener who has fallen in love with these plants and has them growing throughout her landscape. Butterfly Candy Little Coconut Butterfly Bush will elevate any garden with its abundant clusters of fragrant white flowers. The flowers bloom in ascending order, working their way from the bottom to the tip of the cone-shaped panicles. Little Raspberry is another butterfly bush in the Butterfly Candy series that provides a pop of color in the landscape. Every one of its branches ends in a cluster of tiny, raspberry pink, sweet, scented blooms, jam-packed into vertically pointed, tight clusters. Pugster is another series of butterfly bushes in Patricia's landscape. Pugster Blue Butterfly Bush is a compact and dwarf variety of butterfly bush known for its vibrant blue-purple flowers. It blooms non-stop from early summer through frost with true blue flowers, each with a tiny yellow-orange eye in the center. Pugster Amethyst and Pugster Pinker are also found throughout Patricia's gardens. Thanks to thick, sturdy stems, the Pugster series offers vastly improved hardiness and winter survival over other types of dwarf butterfly bushes. All of these plants are drought tolerant, attract pollinators, and resist deer and rabbits. Whether you are looking to create a focal point in your landscape or add a touch of elegance to your patio, dwarf butterfly bushes are a great choice. I'm Eddie Smith, and I will see you next time on Southern Gardening.
We'll take a short break, but don't go away. Coming up, part 2 of The Fisherfolk. In this episode, in years past, Mississippi's Gulf Coast was known for great fishing and shrimping. But a series of disasters, along with excessive rain, have decimated the fishing industry. Fishermen are left wondering how they'll buy fuel for their boats, let alone pay their bills. The Hungriest State continues, coming up on Farmweek. Don't go away.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations and their faith, and their right to make their own plans and arrive at their own decisions, and their ability and power to enlarge their lives and plan for the happiness of those they love. I believe that education, of which extension work is an essential part, is basic in stimulating individual initiative, self-determination, and leadership. That these are the keys to democracy, and that people, when given facts they understand, will act not only in their self-interest, but also in the interest of society. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations, and their faith. I believe in intellectual freedom to search for and present the truth without bias and with courteous tolerance toward the views of others. I believe that education is a lifelong process, and the greatest university is the home. That my success as a teacher is proportional to those qualities of mind and spirit that give me welcome entrance to the homes of the families I serve. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
Time for the market report. Looks like another turnaround in prices. You know, Mike, that's been happening a lot here lately. Markets up one week and down the next, and we'll get into it. But first, the numbers. What were the week's biggest gains and losses? And then we speak with row crop economist Dr. Will Maples to get his thoughts on how the season's progressed so far. So, markets closed on the downswing, both livestock and row crops affected. Let's take a look. The week's biggest gain, lumber, up $6, nearly a 1% increase from the previous week. The week's biggest loss, sugar, down about half a cent, more than a 3% decrease from the previous week. So we've been talking a good bit about the state of row crops here in the middle of summer, mostly on a national level. But how are things here in Mississippi? I spoke with Dr. Will Maples to get his thoughts on that and other producer issues.
So right now, still kind of the question is, all that rain we had early in the season with planting, is what's its impact going to be on final yields here in the state? Just from riding around, things look pretty good. I mean, you see some different stage soybeans out there in the Delta, so if they got it in early, and then all the rain delayed planting, got the late beans in. Usually those late beans don't do as well as the earlier planted stuff. So you'll drive around and see sporadic beans in different growth stages. Cotton right now, it's going to be kind of a toss-up because the rain just really hammered getting cotton planted on time, and now it's been so hot. You know, you just think about the past week here. We've went from all that rain to really not much at all here in the past couple weeks in some parts of the state, and just the humidity and the heat stress on the plants. So it's kind of a mixed bag across the state. But overall, corn's looking all right, soybeans are looking all right, and cotton's going to be an interesting one to kind of see where we end up at.
Yes, I'm glad you brought up driving around because, when I'm driving from place to place, I'm often taking a look at how the crops are looking off the side of the highway. And I must say, most of the soybean fields I see, even out in the more rural areas, are looking pretty good. And corn's definitely looking
So
good too.
I haven't gotten over in the Delta in about 3 weeks or so, but I'm going to be in Rolling Fork this Friday. It's always a good chance to go just see where things are at. Marketing is super important right now, so we're going to do some education on how do you build out marketing plans, what are some things you should look at, and along those lines to help producers.
Yeah, speaking of prices on that regard, so I mean, what is there one commodity or one row crop rather that's just kind of gone a lot lower than we expected?
Cotton's still the one that it's just down and it's just bad still. But we've been talking about that for a past year now. We've not broke out of that 60-cent price range on cotton still, and the outlook's still just not there for anything more positive. Beans we knew were going to be a struggle. They're still a struggle. Corn's at least held up. Rice has held up pretty decent as well. We've come off the highs, but rice is still there in the near profitable range. At the national level right now, it's been almost an ideal growing season for corn, and there's not a story there right now around the corn supply. We're looking at probably one record corn yield if things hold as they are.
Well, let's get a little preview of what you're going to talk to those folks at Rolling Fork. So you were going to talk to them about grain marketing, and my guess is that there's some farmers there that probably still have corn and soybeans in the bin that are trying to sell it. Am I right?
Well, hopefully not. So that's one of our main points we're going to do. So we'll talk about pre-harvest marketing, which we're in July, so pre-harvest is kind of, at least we'll set them up for next year. But then we'll focus a lot on post-harvest marketing and how do you make those decisions? How do you decide to even store? How can you look at the futures market and see if it's offering you a carrying charge to even incentivize you to store that grain, or should you just go ahead and sell it at harvest? So helping make those kind of decisions, understand what your storage costs are, when you should sell, but also, as you mentioned, this unpriced grain still in some bins, is making sure you have some type of exit plan for that commodity. Because the longer it stays in a bin, that's just you got storage costs associated with that. If you let it sit in there past really July, you're not ever going to make any profit on those bushels.
And that's it for a deeper look into the markets. As Dr. Maple said, it seems crops looking good, save for cotton. We'll keep an eye on that and see if it turns around. Mike?
Thanks, Zach. Back to our series, The Hungriest State. More about why Mississippi's fisherfolk are facing such hard times. We pick up with Ryan Bradley, who says the long slide downward started with one of the largest natural disasters ever to hit the Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Here in Mississippi, we've had a plethora of man-made and natural disasters. Just looking back in recent history, it really started with Hurricane Katrina. That knocked out about half of the commercial shrimp fleet. Then we had the BP oil spill in 2010, and that really has decimated our wild oyster reefs, which is one of the biggest fisheries on the Mississippi coast. We've had next to zero harvest for about the past 10 years since the BP spill. But then we've been plagued with these Bonnie Carey spillway disasters, which we had one in 2016, we had another one in 2018, again in 2019, and in 2020, with 2019 being a record opening, record number of days it was open. And so we just, these guys are tough, these families are tough, but there's only so much you can take. And, they've been dealt a very tough hand.
That's what's sickening right there. Look, dead stingrays, dead catfish. Our season this year in our inshore waters between Louisiana and Alabama, it's probably been the worst year I've ever seen in 30 years. And the main thing is just with the amount of fresh water we've had excessive rainfall, all throughout this area. So, but it's been really, really bad.
Too much water will create the imbalance of the pH, meaning it's going to kill the fish, shrimp, or to dry them further out somewhere, and we're not able to make a living out of it. And I think it was like 2 years ago, when they opened the spillway, there was a lot of algae See, that's cause algae because the pH in the water is not consistent.
We had a lot of pollute. They kept calling it fresh water. Well, when that was water out of the Mississippi River that comes from from Minnesota all the way down the Mississippi River, and that is polluted fresh water. It's not fresh water, it's polluted fresh water. And because we had all that polluted fresh water with all these chemicals in it, it caused some major blue-green algae blooms, other algae blooms, and it put a tarnish on our seafood, Hello. I only got the large, the jumbo kind. Only the jumbo today.
Those are a little bit too big.
Yes, we are sold out on the small medium this morning, but this is the only thing we have left for the day.
Yeah, you don't have anything though.
On the shrimp, no, not right now.
You think you will later on today?
No, not quite. Hopefully tomorrow.
What we've seen here over the last several years is due to all the plethora of disasters that we've had. The productivity of the fishing vessels have fallen off. The consistency of the availability of the product has fallen off. And because of that, you don't see people looking for product to buy fresh shrimp right off the vessels as much as you would, say, 5 to 10 years ago.
Do you ever feel pressure? Like, are you ever worried about, are you worried, when you wake up in the morning, are you like, man, I hope we sell enough today?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yeah, how are we going to pay the bill, Yeah, I give up everything like I said, I give everything up to concentrate on this job. And now, too much rain, it's just very depressing when you go out there at night and you're catching less than 100 pounds. You can go all night and not make it up. You don't even catch enough to make up for the fuel and ice.
It's feast or famine a lot of times, and you have to have really good money management skills because sometimes you make really good money. When you have that money in your hand, it's like, oh, we're going to buy this, buy that. Well, there's weeks where you're not going to make a whole lot of money, This year in particular, I haven't worked hardly at all on my shrimp boat just because it hasn't been economically feasible. When it cost you, with the price of fuels went up this year substantially since last year, but the price of shrimp is up, but it's still not enough shrimp to catch to make it a bigger profit margin. That's why I've been crabbing. The overhead's a lot lower, so the profit margin's bigger.
When we look at global market factors that have impacted the seafood industry here on the coast, the importation of shrimp, mostly farm-raised shrimp, coming from overseas, from other countries, has really put a lot of pressure on the shrimp industry in particular. We normally would see shrimp prices much higher than they are now 30 years ago.
For the past 30 years, fishing, especially shrimping here in the U.S., here in the Gulf, is very difficult. We have to spend so much money to fill up the diesel tank to go out the fishing for 4 days, 6 days. And then when they come back with their catch, the price is so low. Sometimes the sale that they get out of the catch, that they get out of the ships, not been enough to pay for the diesel. Now, why is it that the prices are going down? We know that for a fact. More than 90% of what we eat here in the U.S. is imported. And foreign countries, they have lax regulations. They can do whatever they want as long as they satisfy paperwork and produce those products at very low cost. So bring them in here.
A lot of these imports that come into the country, they're subsidized by their host countries where they're being produced. So that allows them to put them on the market much cheaper and undercut our fishermen here in America. And when a state where everything prices are inflating across the board, the cost of materials and supplies are rising, with your product being stable or even decreasing, it makes for very tough market conditions.
You know, it's just hard to compete with rising operating cost on a global market. You know, there's still countries over there where people can make $1 a day and they're doing good. And it's just hard for us to compete on that level here in the United States.
Hard to compete, hard to watch, a tough ship to turn around. Well, next week, our concluding encore segments of The Fisherfolk, all part of our series, The Hungriest State.
We talked to Frank Parker and Maria Tran and others about what the future has been looking like for Mississippi's fishermen. It's not necessarily a pretty picture, though things could change for the better.
The graying of the fleet and what has looked like the collapse of the Mississippi fishing industry, part of our series, The Hungriest State. That's next time on Farm Week.
Remember, if you missed a story, look for past episodes of Farm Week on our website at farmweek.tv.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. See you next week. Thanks for watching.